lot of women make the mistake and think holding out on sex is for him. You're supposed to hold out on sex for you because your own judgment gets clouded if you go too early. But the 90-day rule and blah, 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 it's all like, yeah, I'm going to make him wait so he knows I'm a good woman and blah, blah, blah. You're like faking your way into showing him you're a good woman. Whereas you are not having sex, you're abstaining, so you can actually take your time and view him and see, does he listen to, does he listen to you? Is he a man of his word? Is he a good guy? Like all of those checks, that is what you're supposed to do when you're abstaining. Not like, yeah, he's going to see I'm a good woman. Like that's so dumb to me, but that's what some women do.
What age group is that? Because I feel like the youngins, they're just out there getting it in. They're not worried about all of this whoopla, vet the man and see if he's qualified. All of, like they're jumping in the bed and they're getting it going. And if, he commit to her, then that's fine. If he don't, she's on to the next, so it's not this vetting the man and, making sure that he's qualified to be, your boyfriend, hell, your husband. So
I agree. It's definitely not the early 20s that's doing the 90-day rule.
Exactly. I was about to say that's the 30s and up. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure we don't get played for the millionth time. So we're going to take the longest time we've ever taken in our life to decide to have sex with a man.
Yeah,
exactly. It's the ones that's made the mistakes in the past. So they're trying to right their wrongs.
Yeah. So do you think for men it makes a difference for whether you make them wait for a period of time and get to know you, or for you can tell off bat like, all right, she the one, and I don't care whether we do it within the first week we meet or the first 3 months?
I think most men know all right off the bat. We could within a week we can tell, because we're gonna hear all the conversation. With social media, we're gonna see everything y'all have to present, because y'all talk way too much to me. Y'all tell everything, y'all post everything, y'all share everything. So we're gonna be able to tell within that first week. We just need to confirm it by having these conversations, these interrogations, these in-person interrogations, and that's all we need to confirm. And like you said, we're gonna knock you down. So you could hold me out 30 days, 90 days if you want to. I told you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go next door and I'm gonna wait you out.
So if she
and if I feel like now you answer all my questions, now you answer my sexual desire question, you know how to get me to the point where, hey man, I just gotta have you every time, because the pussy's wet, you know what I'm saying, the kitty stay on moist. I ain't got nothing to worry about. Now that puts you over the edge. So now, shit, I can't let these other snakes have it from right here. I'm fattening up for myself.
That's the crazy part. You're abstaining from sex, but y'all having these X-rated conversations. Like, I don't understand when women are saying, no, but that's what I'm saying. It makes no sense to me. Like, that's how I know they're trying to portray themselves as a wholesome woman, because I'm abstaining from sex, but I'll do everything else. That doesn't mean actual sex. Like that's crazy to me.
They're actually the ones that bring up the conversation, or rather break the ice about sort of sex or sexual escapade. I find based on the conversations that I've had with, friends, close friends, colleagues, is that most of the women are really the ones who are initiating that sex conversation. Somewhere along the talking and getting to know phase, right? It's however way it shows up, they're the ones that are initiating. So it's only easy for the guy to kind of transition into that conversation, because they're going to talk about, what are your interests, things like that, right? Grown folks are going to do what grown folks are going to do. But I think that unfortunately it gets brought up too prematurely, and it kind of ruins or spoils the sort of that mystery to kind of get to know you a bit. Like you guys talked about earlier, it's like, well, I don't want to wait, 6 months, 9 months and find out that the sex was whack. Well, I mean, do you focus too much on the sex itself, or do you have, a mental connection with this person where you kind of like him in every capacity, right? Because I think that, certain parts of sex, you could work on, or you could have conversations through, but unfortunately, I find that a lot of people who have these conversations, they're like, I'd rather go through the mud with someone that I'm not compatible with, but the sex is amazing. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it tells me that you are a sex addict.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Most people are sex addicts out here now. So they want sex. Sex is always on their mind. So it's kind of hard to address the issues that we're having when they're not even addressing their sex addiction. It's like,
so at what point, what would be a reasonable time frame, do you think, that a talk about sex should come up? So let's say you're refraining from sex because you're really trying to get to know the person, but let's be real, when you're in a relationship, sex is a huge part. It plays a big part in it. So at what point should you, as a woman, introduce the topic of sex?
Well, I think it depends on what what answer you're looking for. Now, if you want to know if the man has any STDs, yeah, you might want to know that pretty soon. I wouldn't wait long, because that's very important. You don't want to deal with nobody with STD or has a history of constantly getting STDs. So depends on what you're looking for. Now, if you're just looking for just to wonder how good he is or how big his Johnson is, if that's the type of question you're looking for or answers you're looking for, well, then you might want to wait about a month or so to introduce that. But maybe about STDs, yeah, I would try to have that within a week or two.
But what are the conversations about, like, leading up to sex? Like, how do you have those conversations early on? I personally never brought up sex. So I'm just curious to know, like, what are these women saying? Like, how good, like, I don't know. I don't even know what to ask, but I'm just curious, like, what are questions that women are asking men about sex, in the early stages of getting to know each other?
Good question.
I was just curious, like, what are questions women are asking about sex, like, in the early stages of getting to know that person? Like, how big your
I mean, I've had one woman ask me, like, what are your sexual boundaries, right? Like, are you someone who has a high sex drive? Is it like more often than not? Like, what I'm saying? Like, what are those kind of expectations like, right? Because we talk about them, but we just expect people to read our minds. But unfortunately, people don't have those kind of expectations. Like, is it every day? Is it every other day? I'm extremely busy. I travel. So it's like this amount of time, right? And then also, too, one thing that I've learned, and especially through conversation, is that never weaponize sex against your partner. You could have a bad day, a bad moment. You could have a disagreement. You might not be on the same page about, how to handle the next chapter of your life or how to go about, managing our money. And you might have a disagreement, but one thing is for sure, never weaponize sex against your partner, and never go to sleep upset or mad. Two of the biggest conversation points I've had in the past in my previous relationship.
Lou's about getting that angry booty. I don't blame you, Lou. I feel the same goddamn way. Yeah, if I gotta get you some ass and you mad at me, you be mad at me all you want. Give me some of that angry putty, and we're gonna be happy together later on. We're fine. We'll figure this out. We'll talk it out. But give me some of that angry putty.
I got a different spin on it, and you guys can agree or disagree with it. I do understand the not weaponizing sex against your partners, right? I get that. But I'm more aligned in trying to figure out to see if we can nip it in the bud before we even get to that point. It's just something that when women are emotionally angry at you, I don't think that you get the full potential at that moment. They may do it, but they may not be really into it. They may still be thinking about what it is. So if you can kind of peep this all before it happens, kind of set the tone, like, we're not going to go there, maybe start talking about something else. Maybe just don't get to the point where you guys are yelling. Now, there are times when you are angry and you get that look where you laugh and like, oh, I don't know what we was arguing about, and then you guys get intimate. But for the most part, I'm trying to not get to that point, because sometimes you can have angry sex, but it's just not right. It's just not right. So
it doesn't feel the same.
I'm not having no angry sex. I know that y'all say don't weaponize sex, but it's not that I'm weaponizing it. It's that I cannot have sex with you. I'm not going to lubricate right. I'm not going to be excited. I'm not going to be talking to you crazy in your ear if I'm mad at you. So I need to get that off first, and then we can get there. We can do that.
But most men don't need for you to have conversation, because we're just going to bend you over and get you from behind. I don't want to see your face. I don't want to see your face. I don't care less about your face expression. I'm going to bend you over and I'm going to do what I need to do. Now, Jay, I understand what you're saying about, I've done that. And we're not trying to get it. Wasn't now, how are we going to ask me for some sex? We just had an argument. Okay, you're right. And I stood down. But I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not going to keep going without. Because you mad at me.
A woman's emotions, her headspace, all of that is connected to her vagina. Like physically, like even with what she was saying in terms of not even being able to get wet, like things like that. Like if we're not in a good emotional space, then sometimes the physical part doesn't even work right.
And that's why I'm not going to stay with no man if I'm always mad at him.
Argument knowing I want some sex. Sometimes y'all ladies do silly and childish stuff like that. Y'all create an argument knowing. I talked about that morning. Baby, I can't wait to get home to you. I'm looking forward to touching you all over and kissing you on your neck and slapping you on your head. All of a sudden, you want to create an argument. I really don't feel like it. Okay, I'm just going to create an argument, act like a man, and then I ain't got to give him sex. I was a victim of that bullshit.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Would you say
Oh no, I was saying like it's bigger than that. She's not attractive to you. If she's running away from the D, then baby, you got bigger fish to fry.
And I think she's that irritated. Like you can't keep fighting. That's gonna make somebody turned off. It doesn't matter how she thought she was so fine before. If I'm constantly irritated with you, we're constantly bumping heads, then it's gonna be he's losing that attraction for me.
But they're self-sabotaging because it's typically something that's bigger, and that's why I think men. I understand we say we don't want to pay attention, but to a certain degree, you got to pay attention. You got to understand. It's almost like a man that play too much. I mean, shouldn't men be playing too much anyway? But let's just say you are a playful type person and you keep aggravating them. You got to know when to stop aggravating them. Like enough is enough. Now you crossing over to being
annoying,
soft. Yeah. Now the man's acting like a child. But to your point, Hink, I think that's one of the moments where we start to see when Mr. Lego say women act like children. It's kind of like that's what they're doing. You're not saying that they are children, but there are certain things that women can do, like keeping it up. You may not be with the boys, you may be over it, but because women have so many emotions, they may not be over it. And it may play over into sex, it may play over into how she cook your food. Maybe she might not season it right. Maybe she might just put your plate down and didn't say nothing and didn't bring your drink. So all these little things play into one another. And I think that you have to have balance. I always say you got to have balance within relationships and understanding when to turn it on, when to turn it off. You know, you can have moments within moments, but you just got to understand when it's time for that moment. So you could be she might be ready to be a super freak. You got to kind of peep that and figure out when she's ready to do that. Then you can kind of go in. She might have that moment where she might not couldn't let that argument go. And so now she wants to keep bringing it up. So you're going to have to attack it a different way.
I kind of disagree a little bit with what Lewis was saying about never go to bed angry. I understand the sentiment behind it, but sometimes you may have to, because putting stuff on ice can lead to a better, more deeper conversation to get to the real issue, the matter at hand. If I'm forced to have a conversation that I know I'm emotionally charged, I'm not necessarily going to be able to really detect what it is that's going on, because I'm just like lash out. You know what I'm saying? If I'm angry and we're having that argument, and then you're the type to say, no, we got to resolve it before we go to bed. That's not going to work. Because sometimes for me, I need some time to process everything. I have to process it. So it's better for us to go to bed where I might be angry, you might be angry, but then we revisit that topic the next day or so. I think it's important to come back to it. A lot of times what happens, you'll go to bed and you're asleep on it, but then you never revisit the topic, and the issue, is swept under the rug until something else happens. And then when you're trying to address the new issue, all of the old stuff that you done swept up under the rug, comes out. But I definitely need time to process. It's better that you process and then have the conversation than saying a lot of stuff out of anger and then having to go back and apologize, because now you can't take back what you've already said. And that has probably introduced a whole nother dynamic into the relationship.
And see,
I agree with that. And that's why I think you should wait until, so if you're angry, something happened, immediately you're angry. Take that hour or two to calm down and think about why you're so triggered right now. Then come back to have that conversation. If it's late at night, I really don't know what you would be arguing about late at night. But if it's late at night, it's so late that y'all can't take a couple hours to think about it before you come back to the conversation, then I definitely understand going to bed and you're still angry. But for the most part, I feel like these arguments happen during the day. It doesn't make sense that it has to drag on all night long, all to the next day, all for a week. People go weeks without having sex with their partner because they're mad. That's crazy to me.
I agree.